Welcome to Psycho Depth. I'm Mark Glatt, and in this space we explore the deeper layers of human psychology. Today, we'll break down the hidden emotional patterns behind attachment and why certain connections become so powerful. Let's understand what really happens beneath the surface of relationships. She knows he's not good for her, yet she still can't walk away. Is this really love, or something deeper? At first glance, it looks like love. Strong emotions, deep attachment, constant thinking about that one person. It all feels intense and real. But in many cases, what's happening goes beyond love and enters the territory of emotional dependency. It often begins very subtly. A man gives her attention at the right moment, maybe when she feels lonely, misunderstood, or emotionally vulnerable. That attention feels special. It creates comfort, validation, and a sense of being seen. Over time, this attention becomes something she starts to rely on. It's no longer just about liking him. It becomes about needing how he makes her feel. As the connection deepens, her emotional state slowly ties itself to his behavior. If he's present and caring, she feels happy and secure. If he pulls away, becomes distant or inconsistent, it creates anxiety and emotional distress. This push and pull dynamic can actually strengthen the attachment, making her chase the good moments even more. This is where things shift. It stops being a healthy emotional bond and starts becoming an emotional loop. Even when she recognizes that he's not right for her, that he may not respect her, prioritize her, or treat her well, she still finds it extremely difficult to leave. Why? Because her mind has associated him with emotional relief. Walking away doesn't just mean losing him. It feels like losing a part of her emotional stability. Another important factor is hope. She may hold on to the belief that things will change, that he will eventually become the person she needs. This hope keeps her emotionally invested, even when reality repeatedly proves otherwise. Over time, this creates a cycle where logic says leave, but emotions say stay. This isn't about weakness. It's about how human psychology works. Emotional patterns, once formed, can be very powerful. The brain tends to cling to what once felt good, even if it's no longer healthy. Understanding this difference is crucial. Real love brings stability, respect, and emotional safety. Emotional dependency, on the other hand, brings anxiety, confusion, and a constant need for validation. If you've ever found yourself or someone you know in this situation, it's important to recognize the pattern before it goes too far. Awareness is always the first step toward change. If this made you think differently or helped you understand something deeper, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps bring more real conversations like this to light. It starts with simple attention, but slowly turns into emotional dependency, and then letting go becomes almost impossible. At the beginning, it rarely feels dangerous or unhealthy. It usually starts with something small, simple attention, a message at the right time, consistent check-ins, compliments, or someone who listens when no one else does. For many women, especially during emotionally vulnerable phases, this kind of attention feels meaningful. It creates comfort, connection, and a sense of validation that may have been missing before. As this attention continues, it begins to carry emotional weight. It's no longer just about enjoying someone's presence. It becomes about how that person makes her feel internally. His presence starts to bring reassurance, while his absence creates unease. Without realizing it, her emotional balance slowly begins to depend on him. This is where the shift happens. What started as a natural connection begins turning into emotional dependency. She may start seeking his approval more often, waiting for his messages, and overthinking small changes in his behavior. A delayed reply or a slight change in tone can suddenly feel overwhelming. Her mood starts rising and falling based on his actions, not her own internal stability. One of the strongest drivers of this attachment is inconsistency. When attention is unpredictable, sometimes intense and sometimes distant, it creates a psychological loop. The mind starts craving the good moments even more, holding on to them as proof that the connection is real. This push and pull dynamic deepens the emotional bond, even if it's not healthy. Over time, logic and emotion begin to conflict. She may clearly see that the relationship lacks stability or mutual effort. She may even recognize that he's not treating her the way she deserves. But emotionally, she feels stuck. Letting go doesn't just mean losing a person. It feels like losing the source of comfort and validation she has become used to. Hope also plays a major role. There's often a belief that things will go back to how they were in the beginning, that the attention and care will return. This hope keeps her emotionally invested, even when reality consistently shows a different pattern. Eventually, leaving feels extremely difficult. It's not just about ending a relationship. It feels like stepping into emotional emptiness. The dependency makes distance feel painful, even if staying is equally exhausting. Understanding this pattern is important. Emotional dependency builds gradually, not suddenly. Recognizing it allows a person to step back, regain emotional control, and begin separating real connection from emotional reliance. Why do some women get stuck on one man, even when they know he's wrong for them? At first, it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like connection, attraction, and emotional excitement. When a man gives attention, care, or emotional intensity at the right moments, it creates a strong psychological bond. This bond is not always based on compatibility. It's often based on emotional impact. One major reason this happens is emotional reinforcement. If the man is sometimes loving and sometimes distant, it creates a cycle in the mind. The emotional highs feel very powerful, and the lows create anxiety. This push and pull dynamic makes the brain focus more on getting back the good moments rather than evaluating the relationship logically. Another factor is emotional investment. The more time, feelings, and energy she puts into the connection, the harder it becomes to walk away. Even if she knows deep down that he is not right for her, she may feel like leaving means losing everything she has already invested. Hope also plays a big role. There is often a belief that he will change or things will go back to how they were in the beginning. This hope keeps her emotionally attached, even when reality shows repeated patterns of disappointment. Over time, emotional attachment can become stronger than logic. The mind starts prioritizing feelings over facts. She may recognize the red flags, but emotionally still feel pulled toward him. This creates inner conflict. She knows he is wrong for her, but detaching feels extremely difficult. In reality, this is not just about love. It is about emotional conditioning. The mind becomes used to a certain emotional pattern, even if it is unhealthy. That's why letting go is not just a decision. It becomes an emotional struggle. Understanding this pattern is important because awareness is the first step to breaking it. This isn't love. It's emotional addiction, something that slowly takes control from within. What many people initially mistake for love can sometimes be something much more complex and unhealthy. Emotional addiction doesn't appear suddenly. It develops slowly over time, almost without being noticed. It often begins with strong feelings of attraction, attention, and emotional excitement. Everything feels intense, meaningful, and deeply personal. At the start, the connection feels special because it fills an emotional gap. Attention from one person can start to feel like a source of comfort and validation. The brain begins to associate that person with emotional relief, especially during moments of loneliness or vulnerability. This is where attachment quietly starts forming. As time passes, the emotional response becomes stronger. The person begins to think about them constantly, waiting for messages, overanalyzing interactions, and reacting emotionally to small changes in behavior. The relationship is no longer balanced. It becomes emotionally one-sided in many cases. What makes emotional addiction powerful is the cycle of highs and lows. When the person gives attention, it feels like emotional reward. When they withdraw, it creates anxiety and emptiness. This repeated pattern trains the mind to chase the good moments, even if the overall experience is unstable or unhealthy. Slowly, logic starts to weaken. Even when someone realizes that the relationship is not good for them, emotional dependency can make it extremely difficult to let go. It no longer feels like a simple choice. It feels like an internal struggle between what the mind knows and what the emotions demand. Hope also plays a strong role in keeping the cycle alive. The belief that things will improve or return to how they were in the beginning keeps the attachment active, even when reality doesn't support it. In the end, emotional addiction takes control quietly. It doesn't force itself. It builds itself through repeated emotional patterns until it becomes difficult to separate feelings from dependency. It begins with a simple connection, then attachment, and eventually reaches a point where walking away feels impossible. At the start, everything feels normal and even exciting. A simple connection forms between two people, maybe through attention, conversation, shared moments, or emotional understanding. Nothing feels extreme or concerning at this stage. In fact, it often feels comforting because it gives a sense of being noticed, valued, or emotionally understood. As interactions continue, something subtle starts to change. The connection slowly turns into attachment. This doesn't happen in one moment. It develops gradually. The brain starts associating that one person with emotional comfort. Their messages, presence, and attention begin to hold more importance than expected. Without realizing it, emotional dependence starts building in small steps. At this stage, the connection is no longer just casual. It becomes emotionally significant. The person may start thinking about them more often, waiting for their response, or feeling a strong emotional shift based on their behavior. If things are good, there is happiness. If they are distant, there is confusion or anxiety. The emotional balance starts depending on them. Over time, this attachment can become very strong. One of the main reasons is inconsistency. When attention is unpredictable, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, it creates a cycle in the mind. The good moments feel very powerful, while the bad moments create discomfort. Instead of leaving, the mind starts chasing the good moments again, hoping they will return more often. Eventually, this emotional cycle reaches a point where walking away feels impossible. Even when logic says the connection is not healthy or balanced, emotions feel stronger than reasoning. It no longer feels like a simple decision. It feels like emotional resistance. The idea of losing the person feels heavier than the discomfort of staying. Hope also plays a role. There is often a belief that things will improve or return to how they were in the beginning. This hope keeps the emotional bond alive, even when reality shows a different pattern. In the end, what started as a simple connection slowly transforms into emotional dependency. It doesn't happen suddenly. It builds step by step until detachment feels emotionally difficult. This content is for informational and awareness purposes only. It does not describe every relationship and should not be used to generalize or judge individuals or situations.